How's it going? Well, I hope. I'm not going to tell you what I'm smoking quite yet because it would be out of order if I did. This is going to be a YABO, but before that, I have to give you a little history lesson. It applies to the YABO. So in the mid 1700s, yes, it goes back that far, before we were very good at naming the wars, there was a war called the 7 Years' War, because presumably it took 7 years to finish. If we went back and renamed all the wars in history, this one could probably more aptly be called World War I. And the Great War, which became known as World War I, would be World War II, and World War II would be something entirely different. Anyway, the Great War, the 7 Years' War, was fought by every major power at the time. Britain, France, Spain, Prussia, Russia, Austria, you name it. If they were a power, they were in this war. And forgive me to any former relevant superpowers that I may have missed. This war changed the course of history. It changed land, changed hands all over the globe. It was a big war. France suffered the most, lost basically. And I think it probably set the precedent for every major conflict thereafter, starting out with the premise of, let's go kick France's ass and see what happens from there. So anyway, this major war happened, mid 1700s. Britain won a lot of territory, had a lot of gain from it, but they decided it would be a good time afterwards to throw a lot of soldiers into the colonies, the American colonies being one of them. Colonists didn't like that because they said there was no need. There were no foreign aggressors there. They were able to take care of any Indian conflicts on their own. They didn't need all this. King saw otherwise. So he saturated the market, so to speak, with armies. So he had to pay for these armies somehow or another. So Parliament came up with this grand idea, and they called it the Stamp Act. It was in 1765. I'm going to assume you don't know what the Stamp Act is because that makes it easier for me to lie about it. So among other things, what the Stamp Act did was force the colonists and anybody that was trading with them basically to use only paper that was made in Britain, that was specifically stamped. They could only use that paper for any official correspondence or basically anything except personal correspondence, like sending letters to each other. They had to use it for political documents, newspapers, playing cards even. They had to use it for everything. Well, they protested And because of that, part of that protest was basically boycotting things. So people in England, everywhere around the world suffered because of this, because they could no longer deal with the colonists. They could no longer trade with them in anything that involved paper. Colonists revolted. All these people that were set up to collect taxes based on the Stamp Act were forced to quit their post, basically, and in the end, no taxes were ever really collected on that. They repealed it the following year. They then followed it up with another act that says we can do whatever we want, whenever we want. I don't recall the name of that one. That led directly to the American Revolution. So this tax, the Stamp Act, was a major part of history. It led to big things. The Stamp Act. Back to my YABO. Now, one of the things the Stamp Act did, or one of the things why we revolted and fought a war and gained our independence and all that stuff, was to combat things like this. I got this package from Uncle Butter. Look at that. There's like 1,400 stamps on here. I don't even think he needed a box. I think he could just join the stamps up and put the package, the contents on the inside of that. I don't remember how much a stamp costs because my wife does all the stamping stuff, but it's about 50 cents, I think. Some of them are labeled, but not all of them are. But anyway, look at that. Man, spent like $300 to send this box over here. Look at all them stamps. And I'm not complaining or anything. It's just we fought a war over this, Besides that, look at his. I mean, this is a package, man. Look at that two-tone writing, silver and gold. Man, went out of his way. That's what I call a YABO. I already opened it up. I'm actually smoking some of it right now. I knew what was in it. I didn't know how much was going to be in it. My back brace on so I can show you guys this. This is some Ramsgate, which I mentioned. I think it's Ramsgate. Yeah, Ramsgate. I'm trying to read it backwards. Which I mentioned in a Voxer chat or something that I hadn't tried it. And he said, I'll send you some. So I got to send him something back. It's probably going to be after Thanksgiving, unfortunately. But it's coming. Anyway. But that's a sack of Ramsgate right there. Look at that. Back in the day, we would describe that with 3 fingers. Thank you so much, Uncle Butter. I haven't quite, the smell of it is intense. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read about it and found out what's in it or anything. But it had almost a, I don't know if I'm wrong, but like a licorice kind of smell to it. So I immediately thought, wow, I'm not going to like that because I hate licorice. That's good. But through the first half of the bowl, I don't taste any licorice. My palate sucks. I'm not quite sure what I do taste, but I don't taste licorice. I'm smoking this in my little butch can. Speaking of France losing the war, I didn't even realize my pipe would be relevant, but it is. I got this pipe because France lost a war in 1760. I'll have to get back to you on how I like the tobacco. It'll take me 3 or 4 bowls to really form an opinion, but thoroughly appreciate Uncle Butter sending me this. I'm gonna make him a goodie box up. He had a couple of blends he wanted to try. I'm gonna stick those in a box and send him his way. I got a box going out to Rocco, Old R. That one's unfortunately also probably going to be after Thanksgiving before I can get it out. So probably next week. That's what happens when you're poor. So anyway, I'm sure I'll see you 2 or 3 more times before Thanksgiving, so I'm not going to delve into that in this video. But I hope you enjoyed your history lesson. Be careful what you do with your packages. I mean, people died because of that, so. Enjoy your pipe. Ignore the hype.